Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. We're on the patch 8.4 test server taking a look at all the new stuff. Before we get started, however, there's a couple of questions that I get asked every single time I put a test server video up. So we're just going to address those now, get them out of the way, and then we can get on with the meaty stuff. First question, no, I'm not a hacker. Yes, this is all the gold credits and XP that you just get given every time you log onto your test server account. There's nothing special about that. Everybody gets that when they go on the test server. Second question, no, you can't keep it. What goes on the test server stays on the test server. It's a bit like the Fight Club. Everything that happens on the test server will not affect your account on the live server. What's next? Oh, how do you get onto the test server? Well, you go to your World of Tanks webpage and follow the instructions there on how to get onto the test server. If that's too much effort for you, I have done a how to get onto the patch 8 physics test server several months ago, but the instructions in that video are still relevant today, and there's a link appearing up here in the top left corner of the screen that will take you straight to that video if you want to get yourself onto this version of the test server. I think that just about covers it. So, on with the show. What's new about this version of the test server, patch 8.4? Well, primarily these things. British tank destroyers. Although there are changes to the German light tanks as well. There are a couple of new ones been thrown in, and then the Lux, the Leopard and the VK2-1 have been shuffled around and all bumped up a tier. So we'll be taking a look at those, taking a look at the British tank destroyers. There is a new premium Russian tank destroyer, the Su-100Y. We'll be taking a look at that too. So the first things first, one of the most important new features that has been introduced in this patch is this thing right here, the battle tutorial. I've already completed it. I will show you, I'll take you through it. You will receive 6,000 credits and 300 experience for doing this. And as opposed to the other tutorials, which basically just say, now go and buy this, now put that on your tank. The battle tutorial is an actual drive your tank around, shoot at things, learn how to drive, learn how to look around, learn how to this, that, and so on and so on. And it's something that the game badly needed. There is one thing it tells you to do that I violently disagree with, but on the whole, I think it's a fantastic idea. There are plenty of people who've been playing this game for a long time who would benefit greatly from doing this bloody battle tutorial. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at that. Right, here it is. The battle tutorial, and this game has been crying out for something like this. So, and this is a brand new map designed just for the battle tutorial, and yeah, it's quite pretty. It's very small, obviously. Basically consists of this base camp area, a small road, and a firing position. And that's pretty much it. So the first thing it tries to teach you to do is just pointing the camera. There you go. So there we go. There's the first part of the tutorial complete. Vehicle control basics. Puts you in a T-34-85, by the way, just in case it wasn't obvious. Move to the designated location. While taking care not to damage buildings and other vehicles. I applaud the inclusion of this tutorial, if for no other reason than that alone. Okay. Now we have to move up to the firing position, and this is really basic stuff, but it needed to be in the game. It's needed to be in the game for years. Every day I see people driving tier 10 tanks who could learn something useful from doing this. I suspect this is not a fully upgraded T-34-85. It feels a little slow. Completed. We're in a firing position. There's an enemy tank in front of us. You can't actually zoom into sniper view or anything. So, bang. There you go. Destroy the enemy vehicle. Whoa. Congratulations, you have destroyed your first enemy. Well, not really. Okay, move to the second firing position. I like this little map, you know. I can see this map being fun for a low tier game, tier 1, 2 and 3. Oh look, another enemy tank. I wonder if it's going to teach us anything about armour sloping. No, and it's still not letting me go into... where am I going to hit this guy? Yeah. I can't, it's difficult to aim for weak spots. Destroy the enemy vehicle. I'm just getting... Alright. Penetration zones. This is... Okay, well, I don't have to... No, I do have to remain in the firing position. Oh, fantastic. Or I can see a lot of new players finding this frustrating. Ah, right, there we go. This is good. It's a 3002 DB, and this crappy little 85mm. Oh, actually, no, it's a stock Tiger 2. You're never going to penetrate from the front with this crappy little 85mm. Move to a better firing position. Aim at the sides and rear. So they've picked this with care. See if I can anorak him. Still not letting me zoom in. Well, that's probably going to be the next part of the tutorial. It's telling me to use auto aim. No, don't use auto aim. There you go. I have to because it's part of the tutorial. Oh, this is bad news. Now you don't need to aim. Auto aim will do the job for you. They're actually teaching people to do this. No. Oh well. Find and destroy. So okay, so now we need to detect the guy. Still not letting me zoom in. That's annoying. But at least we're getting some practice firing at a moving target. So it's hard to complain. I mean, there are elements of this tutorial that I'm not exactly agreeing with, like encouraging people to use auto-aim, for God's sake. But the fact that they've actually got a live combat tutorial in the game is something that I can't really argue with. So there we go. Tutorial complete. Is it going to give us a... Yeah, there we go. 6,000 credits, 300 experience. That's going to come in very, very, very handy for a new player. So, yeah, there's the combat tutorial. You only get to do it once, otherwise you just sit here all day farming credits and experience by doing it over and over and over again. So, aside from the fact that it doesn't show you how to go into sniper view, and it encourages people to use auto-aim, overall, I can't really find fault with the battle tutorial. Just the fact that they've put one in the game at last is something I can only applaud. So there you go, the battle tutorial. Good stuff. Shame that the accompanying video is in Russian, but it's the test server. By the time patch 8.4 goes live, they will have localized versions of it for, English certainly, French, German, Turkish, you name it. They'll all be there when the thing goes live. Don't expect to see a translated version on the test server though, because it's the test server. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the German light tanks, and then we'll have a look at the British tank destroyers, because that's pretty much the major meat and bones of this patch. It's all about the German light tanks and the British TDs. So I haven't bought at this stage any of the new German lights, but sitting here in my garage we have my Lux and the Leopard, and there's a couple of changes to the Lux. It's pretty much exactly the same tank as it was before, but it's got two new guns, and there's one of them. Now that isn't actually a new gun, it's the longer 50mm gun that the Leopard got when it was tier 4, but there is also a new gun been thrown into the mix, and it's this thing. It's a new 30mm autocannon. It's probably the most powerful autocannon in the game. It's 30mm. Wow, that's not bad at all. I'm almost certainly wrong there, and somebody's going to pop up in the comments and say, well, actually, Jingles, you're going to find that the 30mm gun, yeah, whatever. I've never seen a 30mm autocannon on a German tank before, so this is it's an interesting alternative. How does it stack up? Well, it's not really everything I'd hoped it was going to be. The rate of fire on a loaded clip is absolutely phenomenal. It just empties the magazine so incredibly quickly, but it takes forever to load the magazine. The penetration isn't bad, 95 penetration. Unfortunately, the damage, 30 damage, really? That's, oh dear, that's just pitifully bad. Very, very, very bad indeed. Awful accuracy, 0.5 accuracy is abysmally bad. The aiming time's alright though. So this is very, very much, and you know, it's kind of suits the way the Lux plays, or well, the way the Lux played at tier 3 anyway. At tier 4 I'm not sure. You can start to get into some seriously big games as tier 4 light tank. But the Lux used to play as, you know, you just zoom around the map, scream up to a halt behind somebody bigger than you, just blat 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 blat, and then nah 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 nah, and scream off again. And if you're going to use the Lux like that, yeah, it sort of kind of works. As a tier 4 light tank, it isn't going to get into the same kind of games as a tier 5 light tank. It can still get into some serious games, but it will also get into games where it can actually kill stuff. I'm not sure about having the Lux as a tier 4. I really, really loved it being at tier 3 because it got into very low tier games more often than not as a tier 3 light tank. As a tier 4 light tank, you're going to start getting into those tier 9 games where you have to, you know, be sensible. And I don't like being sensible in the Lux because it's never been that kind of tank for me. It's always been the tank where I get to do silly stuff and get away with it and have fun. But it's all grown up now. It's at tier 4, so yeah, I don't know what to think about that. Now, the Leopard, new tier 5 German light tank. I despised the Leopard. I absolutely hated it as the tier 4 light tank. It was just crap. It didn't have the view range to be a scout. It wasn't quite fast enough. I mean, it had the top speed, but it didn't have the acceleration, and the second it started turning, it just stopped. The gun selection was abysmally bad. It just failed as a scout, and you couldn't kill anything with it unless you know. It was just a bad tank. It wasn't good at all. It could be fun to drive, but people have fun driving the Lee. You know, anything's possible. But this thing just, how's it do as a tier 5 light tank? Well, I can confidently say it is the worst tier 5 light tank in the game. No question about it. Well, you sound very confident about that, Jingles? Yes, I am. And I'll tell you why. First of all, it has the lowest health of any of the tier 5 light tanks, with the exception of the ELC AMX. But the ELC AMX can get away with having very, very, very low health. It's actually got 400 health because it's that big. In order to damage it, you've got to hit the little bastard. It's not that difficult. And it's also faster than the Leopard, but it's not that difficult to hit a chubby little bastard like that. It's a large target for a light tank. It's not difficult to hit, and it's also, it doesn't turn as well. It's not as fast in a straight line. It doesn't have the power to weight ratio. The power to weight ratio seems to be better, although I could be wrong. 26.97 ain't bad, but look at the ELC. 35.66. Oh, okay. Well, not really fair to just compare it against the ELC. Alright, about the T50-2, 34.8. Well, the Chaffee's quite slow. This thing's faster than the Chaffee, surely. Well, it is faster than the Chaffee. And it does have a faster power-to-weight ratio. But the Chaffee gets something that the Leopard doesn't. A gun. That T94 gun can kill anything. You might have to get around the sides and rear to do it, but it can and does kill tanks 5 tiers higher. Yeah, good luck doing that with the Leopard's gun, with its 30 average damage per shot. And that's what lets the Leopard down. its gun selection is shit. I mean, really bad. The VK2801 got a really, really good derp gun, a good howitzer. And you didn't have to use gold to make that howitzer work. You could one-shot artillery with that gun. It was a good gun. It's going to take you a while to kill artillery with this thing. And what are your alternatives? I mean, that is the 30mm gun that you can get on the looks. It's the new gun. And it kind of looks like it'll be fun on the looks. But this thing's a tier 5 light tank. You're in, you're wearing big boys trousers now. This thing gets into serious games. This is the German scout tank, if you like. What guns do you get? Choice of 3. 20mm flat gun. Seriously? Are you kidding me? A tier 2 gun on a tank that can be facing tier 10s? Fuck off. Well, how about the long 50mm gun, or longish 50mm gun? No, it's shit. 67 penetration and 70 damage? No, fuck off. Well, okay, what about the new gun? No, it only does 30 damage. What are you doing? Go away, come back when this thing has a proper gun wargaming, and then we'll talk about tier 5 German light tanks. As it is, this thing sucks. It is only good for spotting. It's all it is useful for. You can't kill anything with this tank. It doesn't have the guns for it. And you say, well, is it any good as a spotter? Well, you could do that in any light tank. You could play. You may as well take the turret off. And just to give the driver a better view, because you're not going to be killing anything with this tank. And to prove it, I have a game. So here we go. Test server. Battle of Redshire. It's a tier 8 game, and this is probably the best matchmaking you're likely to see. Driving the Leopard as a tier 5 light tank. And look at the reload on this gun. It is slow. And it's interesting that it's 10 shots per clip, because you only see 4 actually loaded. But I confirmed it by going into the garage and unloading 1 tick of ammo, and it reduced the ammo load from 360 to 350. So somehow you get 10 shots when you when you reload that magazine, which is kind of bizarre. Now, I fitted this thing with camo net and binoculars, because, looking at the stats of the gun, I thought, yeah, this is not a raiding machine. This is a spotter, and I'm playing it as such. So here we are, Redshire. Very, 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 very tier 8 game. In fact, the only tier 7s are... There's 1 tier 7 light tank and a couple of tier 6 TDs, and then me. Oh, there's a 2801 here as well. And he doesn't actually have a very good game. He's up here with me. He's also spotting. And yeah, the enemy team are all killing each other. It's a test server. This stuff happens. So we've lost an SU-100Y. That's the new premium Russian tier 6 TD, which I haven't shown you yet, but I'll show you that in a future video. There you go. SU-100Y, enemy destroyed, Yag Tiger 88, enemy. The premiums are all killing each other. And now here we go. Look at how quickly this gun empties its shots. Oh, they took my track off. Yag Panther 2. Didn't do any damage though, that's kind of lucky. But I did no damage at all to that SU-100Y. Even though the penetration indicator was saying, yeah, green, go for it. Now, I've taken an ammo racket there, and I didn't fit this thing with a repair kit or a first aid kit or anything, and the reload with a damaged ammo rack is just, forget it. And there's 2 team killers on the enemy team so far. Oh, good stuff. Well, rather their team than ours. So I'm trying to find a decent spotting position, and I don't want to get any further up than this, because that tier 7 light might have spotted me. And I know there's going to be some big boys on that ridge line. There always is. So, moving up into these bushes, and I'm just going to sit here. Gun depression is as bad as it ever was on the Leopard. But that's good, because it's only going to encourage me to fire. And that's something you really don't want to be doing in this tank. I'm just moving forward slightly, knock that tree down to provide a bit more cover. And then back up, in case anybody saw it. And then here we go, and I've got a better angle of view here. There we go. Spotted some targets. Now the thing about playing as a spotter, you know, as a proper scout, is it's like the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water but you can't make it drink. So you can spot the targets, but there's no guarantee your team are going to take advantage of your good work. Luckily, there were far more idiots on the other team than they were on ours. Well, not that many more. The scores are only 5-4. They've actually killed more of us than we've killed of them, but you know, they've got 2 team killers on their team. Now we're starting to pull it even. Knocking some more trees down, getting some more cover. There's no artillery in this one. Okay. There goes that Panther M10. Now I can move up a little more. Better spotting position. Here we go. Guys behind a rock so I can't see him. There's that SU-100Y again. And I'm spotting all these guys now. And it's just a question of waiting for the team to take advantage of it. There you go. SU-100Y's dead. Target 2 is right in the open. And I could be taking shots at this guy, but that would just give my position away and get me killed. And then nobody would be up here spotting anymore. Look at the map. I am it. I'm right in the middle of the battlefield here. Everybody else is way behind me. Alright, now I know there's a Yag Panther 2 up there somewhere. So I move up, and there's plenty of knocked over trees here providing cover. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just hiding in the cover, and I'm waiting for them to reveal themselves. There you go, cabinet and binos are up. Haven't seen anything. Move up over the rise here, try to get a better line of sight down there. Oh, AMX 5100 over there. I don't think I'm the one who spotted him. It looks like that tank destroyer on the opposite ridge has, but if he's there, where's that Yag Panther 2? These are the only 2 left now. So, and there's the Yag Panther 2. 40-meter range. Bang, 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 bang. Nothing. And now I've got to suffer through that reload again. And it takes forever. Oh wait, no, I've only got 1 shot left and I haven't fired it. Oh, you fool, Jingles. And now we're playing Ring Around the Roses with the Yag Panther 2. There you go, 1 shot, and that's it. That's the only damage I do in this entire game. 1 shot into that guy's tracks. Now I'm going through that reload. Damaged ammo rack, obviously. Didn't have a repair kit. And he's not even... he's given up trying. Oh no, he's going to have another go. He's going to try to... And there we go. He's had his tracks blown off, and I'm just sitting here waiting to reload and hoping. And there's nothing he can do about it. And just as I reload, bang! IS-3 plants one right into him, and there you go. We won. So there's the battle results screen from that one, and well, I can't argue that I did well. I mean, I did 31,500 credits and over 2,000 experience, doubled first win of the day. So, but still, you know, tier 5 light tank in a tier 8 game. That's a decent result, but it's not a decent result because of any damage that I did to any enemy tanks, because I only did 29 damage to enemy tanks, and that's that Yag Panther 2. Hit him 5 times and did 29 damage. What the hell? Well, it's these shit guns. The Leopard is not going to be killing anything. The reason I got that amount of XP and credits was because of this. All that spotting damage. How much? Well, nearly 3,000. 3,000 damage done to the enemy team because we were spotting the targets that they were shooting at. But you don't have to be in a Leopard to do that. You can do that in any fast light tank. In any scout tank. That's what scouting is. The fact that I was in a Leopard was mostly irrelevant to the outcome of that game. I was just doing the only thing that I could do in this tank, which was spotting for the team, because you cannot kill anything with that gun. with any of those guns. Not in the games this thing's going to be getting into. And bear in mind that was a tier 8 maximum game. That's probably the most generous matchmaking this tank is ever going to get, because you're playing with the big boys now. You're a tier 5 light tank. You can get into tier 10 games. And I couldn't even get through the side of a tier 8 tank destroyer from point blank range. So you're not going to be racking up monster kill scores with the Leopard. It's just not going to be possible. This thing is now only good. I mean, it pretty much always was only good for one thing. But at tier 4, you could get into lower tier games. You would often be thrown into tier 9 games where you'd have to scout, properly. But you would often get into lower tier games, sometimes substantially lower tier games than that, where you could just drive around owning everybody with you. You could ram them, because as a tier 4 light tank, you're reasonably heavy and you can go pretty quick. And this was kind of like a little training tank for the proper German tier 5 light tank, the VK2801. And it still is a training tank for the proper German tier 5 light tank, because the proper German tier 5 light tank is still the VK2801, only now it's at tier 6. This thing is crap. It really, really is. You can't kill anything with it. Just forget it. It's ridiculously fragile and easy to kill. Played intelligently, you can do well just by spotting, but spotting is all it is good for. It is useless at absolutely everything else. Every other tier 5 light tank in the game, you can kill targets in a tier 10 game. You won't be doing it in this thing. It just ain't going to happen. It doesn't have the gun selection for it. So, Wargaming, please fuck off and come back, and we'll be ready to talk again when you've given this thing a proper gun. So, enough about the Leopard. The Leopard can go and get stuffed. What about the VK2801? Now it's no longer tier 5, it's tier 6 light tank. Well, it's business as usual for the 2801. It hasn't changed. In fact, there's only one difference that I can tell. They've given it an extra 50 health. There you go, 610 hit points. Well, isn't that generous? In all other respects, it's the same machine. The gun selection is still a whole load of guns you can choose from, and only one you're ever going to use. That thing right there. The 105mm howitzer. KWK-42 L28. It's still just as effective with standard HE ammo, and it's still ridiculously good with high explosive anti-tank ammo. If you played it prior to patch 8.4, you'll still be playing it after patch 8.4. Nothing's changed, you just got an extra 50 lousy health. The matchmaking isn't going to be any worse. You're still going to get into tier 10, 10 and 9 games all the time. Business as usual. What about all these new German light tanks, however? Good question. Glad you asked. I haven't got crew in them because I don't intend taking these things out for a go, because there's nobody playing these things. You load one of these up, you hit the battle button, you sit there for 5 minutes, you end up back in the garage. Nobody's playing low tier matches. It's just, that's the test server for you. Everybody's playing. You load up a high tier British tank destroyer on the test server, and you get into games with 15 high tier British tank destroyers on each side. That's just the way the test server goes. So what are these things like? I'm not expecting miracles, because they're only tier 2 and 3. There's two of them: the Panzer 1, the Panzer 1C, and the Panzer 2G. Well, there's a couple of surprises here, actually. The Panzer 1 is, it's as crap as you'd expect the Mark 1 version of the Panzer to be. But it's reasonably fast, 40 kilometers per hour, no armour whatsoever, and it's got this really crappy selection of rank 1 guns. And they're all autocannons, and, what do you expect? They're crap. But it doesn't look any worse than the existing Tier 2 German light tank, the Panzer II, which is an all-right, fun vehicle. It's a lot like the existing Panzer II, which is kind of bizarre, because that's the Mark 1 Panzer, this is the Mark 2 Panzer. They've got the same speed. The Panzer II gets a slightly better gun. It gets a Tier 2 gun to choose from. The Panzer 1 only gets a bunch of Tier 1 guns to choose from, so that's kind of strange, considering that... I can see that, yeah, this is the Mark II Panzer, it should get a better gun, but they're both Tier 2, so I don't get it. Doesn't make sense. So screw the Panzer 1. What about the Panzer 1C? The Panzer 1C looks like it might be a magnificently fun vehicle to drive. The gun selection is pretty much, well, it's not fantastic. Is this thing new? I think it might be. Yeah, it's only available on this gun. This is a new gun. It's a machine gun. It's a 7.92mm Mauser machine gun. Monstrous rate of fire. Penetration, yeah. Damage, pitiful. But it's kind of like the machine gun that you get on the British Tier 1 light tank. Where is it? Let's have a look. Oh, sorry, no, the British Tier 1 medium tank. Yeah, the medium Mark 1. That thing, that 15mm machine gun, it's kind of like that. It's not incredibly effective, but it's so much fun to use on lightly armoured targets, because it just sprays them out ridiculously quickly. And with a good clip, that damage does add up. Reloads fast, and so on and so on. But that's not what the exciting thing about this tank is. Look at the speed. 79 kilometers per hour. It's the fastest tank in the game. So I cannot wait to take this thing out for a go, because it just looks like being ridiculous fun. Monstrously quick traverse, 48 degrees per second. The armour isn't bad for a Tier 2. 30mm at the front, 20 at the sides and rear. It's all right. The turret at the front isn't too bad either, 30. Sides and rear are awful, 14. But it's only Tier 2, what do you expect? And that gun looks like being a lot of fun. There's a couple of other 20mm flat guns as well, but that Mauser machine gun is the new boy on the block, and 79 kilometers per hour top speed. So I'm itching for a go at this, and I just wish there were people playing at these tiers on the test server, but there aren't. I will definitely be getting one of these things, tricking it out with every module in the game, and having fun with that thing on the live server. 79 kilometers per hour? Oh, yes, please. Who's the other new boy? The Panzer 2G at Tier 3, and this is looking like it's taken over from the Lux. In a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at it, it even looks a lot like the Lux. It's just slightly smaller, but it's got that same sort of boxy, dinky toy kind of look. And it's pretty fast, 65 kilometers per hour. Nice quick traverse speed, 44 degrees. Armour is, well, it's acceptable. It's a light tank. It's nothing special. Gun selection. It's got this 30mm gun that the Lux and the Leopard get. But I would have loved to have had that gun on this thing when it was Tier 3. Well, that's what you get here. I'm looking at the wrong tank, aren't I? Sorry, that's what you get here. The Panzer 2G. It's got that 30mm autocannon on a Tier 3 tank. And on a Tier 3 tank, well, 95 penetration and 30 average damage per shot starts to sound pretty good. And it looks to be everything that I enjoyed about the Lux at a proper tier, Tier 3. And now that the Lux has been moved up to Tier 4, so I will probably be buying this. And that just for the pure speed. Just racing around and trolling people in low-tier games with that thing looks like being a lot of fun. And this thing, because it's actually got a mean, meaty little gun at Tier 3. So those look like being a lot of fun. And that's about enough, I think, for the German light tanks. Most of you wanted to see this preview for the British tank destroyers. So without further ado, let's have a look at those. So, British tank destroyers. And this is the main feature of patch 8.4, the fact that the British are getting tank destroyers at last. And they're getting a lot of them. They're getting 10 of them, in fact. 2 at Tier 6, and then from Tier 2 up to Tier 10. So, what's so special about the British tank destroyers? Well, they don't really start to develop a flavour of their own until Tier 5. I haven't bothered with the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 for 2 reasons. One, there's nothing particularly exciting or interesting about them. You've got the Universal Carrier 2-pounder, which is basically just a Bren gun carrier with a 2-pounder gun, although it can also mount a pair of 6-pounders. You've got the Valentine AT, which is a Valentine tank without a turret and an anti-tank gun stuck on top. So, yeah, fair enough. Very slow, well armoured. Although it is the first one that actually gets a howitzer, so, yeah. The first one I actually bought and intended to play was this thing here, the Electo, purely because I'm interested by that gun that it has. It says it's a 25-pounder howitzer, but I'm not convinced it is a howitzer because of the way the ammo appears to work and the fact that it doesn't do nearly as much damage as, well, all the other howitzers of a similar tier. So, unfortunately, test server, you hit the battle button, you sit in the queue for 5 minutes, it dumps you straight back into the garage because nobody's playing Tier 4 games. Certainly not at this time of the night anyway. I'll give it another try tomorrow and we'll see what we can do. So that's the Electo. Now, the defining feature, the British thing, if you like, the thing with the British mediums and heavies was the guns were very, very accurate, very, very fast aiming times. And the thing with the British tank destroyers seems to be, well, the flavour really starts here at Tier 5. Now, I had high hopes for the AT2. All the other Tier 5 tank destroyers are amazingly good. So this thing's got some stiff competition, and it's certainly very British. Bear in mind, okay, this is a Tier 5 tank destroyer. Now, it's really slow, 20 kilometers per hour, and it has a traverse speed of 20 degrees per second. It's got 203 millimeters of... Yeah, that's right. Do not adjust your set. You didn't mishear what I just said there. 203 millimeters of frontal armour, 101 at the sides and rear, on a Tier 5 tank destroyer. There are Tier 8 heavy tanks that wish they had that much armour. And I'm not just talking about the French. That is absurdly well armoured. It's not just absurdly well armoured for a Tier 5 tank destroyer. That would be absurdly well armoured for a Tier 7 or 8 heavy tank. That's really good. I mean, there's going to be weak spots. That hatch at the front looks like it probably will be a weak spot. Maybe. The hatch on the top probably is a weak spot, but it's rounded, so you'd have to hit it square on, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, the gun selection on this thing is not great. And you will be using that armour because you're going to have to pour some concentrated fire from the guns that it has, because they do very little damage. Although it does get a howitzer. Maybe it would work with a howitzer better. I don't know. I'll have to have a go and find out. But that whole really slow and absurdly well armoured thing is pretty much it for the British tank destroyers. And the other thing of the British tank destroyers, if you like, you start to find here at Tier 6 and up, in that, yeah, they're absurdly well armoured. Then they all pretty much have this 203 at the front, 102 at the side and rear. And they start to get the gun that the heavy tank one tier higher than them gets. So here at Tier 6, the AT8 gets the 17-pounder Mark 7 gun, which you would expect to see Tier 7 on the Carnarvon, I think. Let's have a look at the tech tree. Tier 7. Oh, the Black Prince. What does the Black Prince get? Yeah, 17-pounder gun. So, yeah, there you go. Now, it's worth pointing out, those of you who are thinking, oh, I've got all the British heavy tanks. Oh, this is great. I've already got all those guns. No, you don't. These are tank destroyer versions of the same guns. They're pretty much just... They're effectively the same gun. You just have to research them twice. But you are getting an equivalent gun a tier before the relevant heavy tank would get them. So there is that. Churchill Gun Carrier we'll take a closer look at. It looks absolutely ridiculous. There it is with its 32-pounder gun. And this is kind of the odd one of the bunch. And that's because, and I know people are going to want to know how this works, because this is your sidestep entry into the tank destroyer line. If you have a Churchill Mark 7, the Tier 6 British heavy tank, the Churchill Mark 7 leads sideways to the Churchill Gun Carrier, also at Tier 6, which from there you can get to the AT7 at Tier 7. So to get from the Mark 7 Churchill to the Churchill Gun Carrier will cost you 67,500 XP. To get from the Churchill Gun Carrier to the AT7, or indeed from the AT8, to get to the AT7 from the AT8 or the Churchill Gun Carrier, got the wrong way around there, will cost you 56,000 XP. So that's the route via the heavy tanks. And the Churchill Gun Carrier is, well, you know, it's a Churchill with a big gun strapped to the front. The armour is crap. It's really, really bad. 88 at the front, 63 at the side, 50 at the rear. Oh, what is going on there? It's like a Tier 5 Churchill, but without the frontal armour. And it's just such a big target. This thing just sucks. Look at it. Really slow. It's as slow as the others. Almost. And it just doesn't have the armour. And that gun is... Well, it's... It's probably the best gun you're ever going to see on any kind of Churchill, but that doesn't mean it's any good. Penetration's good, damage is meh. Rate of fire's not that good. Accuracy's alright, aiming time's bad. It's just awful. Good luck with that thing. That's the price you have to pay for skipping to the higher tier tank destroyers via the heavy tank lines. You have to go through that thing, and it is just, oh, it just looks bad. But if you stick with it, you get to tier 7 and the AT7. And again, the pattern continues. Monstrous amounts of armour, very slow, not very manoeuvrable. Gets a gun on the tier 7 tank destroyer from the tier 8 heavy tank. 20-pounder type A barrel. You get up to tier 8, same pattern, very, very slow, monstrous amounts of armour, even more heavily armoured than the ones prior to it. And the gun you get on that one is the 20-pounder type B barrel. The Tortoise, same deal. Huge amounts of armour, 225 at the front and the sides, 178 at the rear. Look at that. Still not going any faster, 20 kilometres per hour. Turns slightly faster, 22 degrees. It's still crap. What gun does it get? It gets the mighty L1A1 gun, 120mm. Really, really good gun. 269 penetration, good rate of fire, 400 average damage, monstrously good accuracy and aiming time, 0.31, 1.7. But this is the bad boy that's making everybody shit their pants. The FV215B with the 183mm gun. Yep, that's right, 183mm. And as if that wasn't scary enough, well, this thing, excuse me, 310 penetration with armour piercing and 1150 average damage with armour piercing. Accuracy's not that great. 0.4 accuracy, it's actually pretty bad. And 3.4 second aiming time is horrible. But, you know, it's basically competing against the Yag Panzeri 100 here, so it's a big gun, so we accept that. You know, there have to be some drawbacks for doing that amount of damage and having that amount of penetration. But we're looking at the wrong ammo type. That's not what's got everybody scared. This thing has a choice of 3 kinds of ammunition. So there's standard HE, which has absolute garbage penetration, but will do up to 2,188 damage. But who's going to use that? You're never going to penetrate anything with that. No, people are going to be using this. High explosive squash head. And this is what's making everybody shit their knickers. This thing can do up to 2,188 damage. It has 1,750 average damage. And it has 255mm of penetration? Let's have a look. No, 275mm of penetration. Holy shit. 1,750 average damage. What's the damage range again? Up to 2,188 damage. So let's just round it up to 2,200 for the sake of argument. And let's go browsing other tanks. Yeah. Let's have a look at the M103. Yeah, you can one-shot kill an M103 with that. Tier 9 heavy tank. Boom, dead. Wiped out. Quite easily. You wouldn't even have to get that high a damage roll. 1,750 average damage, it has 1,850 hit points. Kiss goodbye to your Tiger 2s. Kiss goodbye to your Lurvers. You could even get a low damage roll and still one-shot kill these things. E75? Yeah, you wouldn't have to roll that high to kill an E75 in one shot. How about an E100? No. Now, you couldn't one-shot kill an E100, but you could leave him on about 500 health and wishing you'd one-shot killed him. So that's nice. Yeah. What the hell are they thinking of? I mean, seriously, what? 1,750 average damage with gold. The cynic in me would even go so far as to suggest that this thing only exists for one reason, and that is to sell gold ammunition. Because that is absurd. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Just no way. Well, what about the reload? It's not that bad. Rate of fire, 2 rounds per minute. It's actually not. I timed Quickie Baby on his live stream last night. And his full reload was taking him 26 seconds. So it's slightly more than 2 rounds per minute. What's the Yag Panzeri 100 looking like? Let's have a look at the tech tree there. Hello, Germans. There he is. There's that gun. Well, it is a slower rate of fire than the Yag Panzeri 100, but it fucking well should be. This thing does 1750 average damage. Holy shit. What? There's no way this tank is going in alive, as is. I mean, if this thing goes on the live server, still able to do that amount of damage with gold ammo, then I've just lost all respect for wargaming as developers. I have never seen a more cynical cash grab in a free-to-play game as this tank. It is absolutely absurd. There are a couple of buts associated with this ammo and this gun, however. And as I say, I have not yet played this thing myself. I haven't played any of them myself, but I was watching Quickie Baby's live stream last night as I was downloading the patch. While he was playing this thing on the test server, and he was determined to get to the bottom of this ammunition and this gun, and he did a lot of games in it. And it seems to be the case, but we can't confirm this, but just from the empirical evidence that we have witnessed from hours of watching him play this tank, seemed to be that if you fire that ammo and it hits a module, for example the tracks, or it hits a rangefinder, or it hits a gun, it will explode, it will wreck the module, and will not penetrate the hull of the tank on the other side. That seems to be the case, and that would make sense because it's high explosive squash head, and that's how HE works. HE will never bounce, but it's not guaranteed to penetrate. If it hits, it will explode, and if it doesn't have the penetration to get through what it hit, then it will just explode on the external armour, and will always do some damage, but nowhere near the maximum amount of damage. But when the maximum amount of damage is 2,188, some damage with this thing turns out to be about the same amount of damage that all of the other tier 10 tank destroyers, with the exception of the Yag Panzeri 100, the same amount of damage that all the other tier 10 tank destroyers do when they penetrate you with their armor piercing. So it's absurd. It's a win-win situation if you're spending gold on this thing. That ammo right there is either going to penetrate and one-shot kill almost anything you fire it at, or it's not going to penetrate and it's only going to do as much damage as all of the other tier 10 tank destroyers getting a penetrating hit. It's so fundamentally broken, it's just hilarious. I can't help but laugh. and add to the fact that it's got 256mm of armour at the front. What the hell is going on? And unlike all of the other British tank destroyers, it's reasonably mobile. It can do 34.3 kilometres per hour and has a 32-degree traverse speed. What the hell is going on? It's just, what? And it's got a turret. Is it April the 1st and I didn't notice? Did I just sleep in for 2 months and nobody woke me out? What the hell's going on? Alright, it's not a proper turret, but it can turn 45 degrees that way and that way. So it's better than, almost every other tank destroyer in the game. There's no way this thing's going through it alive in this state. It's just comical. Absolutely no way. Clan Wars will just be... Clan Wars will just be 13 of these and 2 bat chats as scouts. It's just absolutely absurd. So, yeah. Oh, one final thing. And, yeah, try not to get too cynical about this thing. One final thing that we seem to confirm about this squash head ammo was, unless it smacks a flat surface, it doesn't penetrate. So, for example, if you were shooting at the front of the turret of this thing and it hit the cheek like that, at that sort of angle, that sloping there, it wouldn't bounce because it's HESH, and the HE part in HESH stands for high explosive. High explosive ammo always explodes and doesn't bounce. But it would not penetrate, so you wouldn't do 1750 average damage, but you probably do 700. So that's good news for tanks. It's great news for tanks that have rounded and sloped armour, like, like these. or it's not terrible news. They're still taking 700 damage from a pit that doesn't penetrate, you know. Not so good news for tanks like that. all that don't have rounded and don't have very well sloped armor. Yeah, so there you go. There's my little preview, if you like, of what's coming on the patch 8.4 test server. I will be spending the next, I don't know how long the test server is going to be up for. I never know. I'm not a paid wargaming employee. I don't know the answers to these questions. Based on previous test servers, 2 weeks or more, we shall see. I will be playing a couple of games a day, certainly, trying to get to grips with all these new machines and try. And when I say try, I'm referring to the lower tier machines when it's difficult to even get a game with them. The higher tier machines, yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to get games. And we'll be showing you the games and showing you how these things work. So stay with me over the days to come when I'll actually be playing these things instead of just talking about them in the garage and showing you a quick game on the Leopard. As always, take care on that battlefield, and I will catch you next time.